Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Treb. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. It's the middle of the day where I am, but I get your meaning.
Yes! The middle of day is one's evening, even upon our own planet, while we are in the idea of what you call high noon, it is complete night for the other side of the planet. And this is a very great and exciting concept. And now that you are in an area of consciousness that is less affected by time, you'll notice and perceive much more changes within your own environment, within your own relative creativity. Excuse me for one moment. The cord of this technology has become wrapped upon. Yes! Um, yeah, Kalina, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, Treb.
Yes!
Is it
Um,
out?
the technology is fine now. It was wrapped around the
Oh yeah,
Ghostwood.
it's really short. I'll keep
Yes!
an eye on it for you guys.
Thank you for this.
You're welcome.
I know this evening, or this morning in your case, we have many questions and many ideas that you wish to share. So whenever
Mm-hmm.
you are ready to begin, you may.
Thanks, Treb. Well, firstly, I wanted to thank you and Rob for being willing to spend this time with me today. Um,
Yes! And we wish to thank you as well, as co-creating any time. Communication is one that helps show all of us things within our own self that are projected outwardly, but also the concept of things outwardly that appear to be going on within that we are able to equivalate.
mm, okay. I wanted to say, Treb, that you've got my full and complete permission to contact with my energy to whatever degree you feel is appropriate. My intention is that through our time together today, you'd be able to perceive the vibrational being that I am to the greatest degree possible, and through this, to help me to understand how and why I came to be who I am at this time, and also to look at the options that may, or probabilities that may exist for me going forward.
Yes! It is very exciting to have one's energy open so that we may co-create the greatest things within both of our existences.
Excellent. Okay, Treb, my questions fall loosely into three categories. The first ones are to do with my own self and incarnation cycle. The second group of questions is a larger group relating to lucid dreams, revolving around some reptilian entities that I've been in contact with. The third area is the area of connecting to others higher up in my own soul family, or the highest type 1 vibrational beings that I'm able to make contact with. That would be towards looking to set up a future, or relationships that might lead to partnerships of some nature to serve here where I am. I was just wondering, Treb, which way would you like to go with this? I've got the questions are bunched in three areas. The questions about incarnation, the questions about reptilian entities relating to the lucid dreams, and thirdly the issue of connecting on through. Would you like to take some of the questions, or would you like to connect through and then come in later, or how would you like to proceed?
Yes! Whichever question is feeling most resonant to ask first, ask this question, and dependent on the energy and what I must perceive from you, will be dependent on which way I need to connect to this.
All right, then. Well, I'll start with the um, incarnation questions. Treb, did I exist as an individual idea or fractal of consciousness before I joined the Earth incarnation cycle? And if so, where did I originally emerge from? And what other full or partial incarnation cycles have I experienced?
Yes! Let us express first that as an Earth entity, as an Earth incarnate entity, your perception of the incarnation cycle and the way that you interact with specific fractals inside and outside of your oversoul are always going to be greatly dependent on the beliefs that you carry about how incarnations happen, how reincarnations happen, and when you experience this as the fractal consciousness that you are now, This gives way to much of the power of specific incarnation energies that you play throughout. But if you are looking at your own specific fractal consciousness, this is very different, as your specific fractal that you once have become, or that you have incarnated to into this cycle, is always the same energy that you have brought in forward through many of your incarnations. The way that you experience time linearly, you have progressed as an entity of the first and second, third, and now going into the fourth density. You have been many upon your Earth incarnation, but when you look past the Earth incarnation, the Oversoul and the collective of the Earth consciousness is a group of Oversouls that have come from another solar system. This is a breaking down of fractals. Let us go from the bottom fractal upwards, so this will give you a greater idea of the picture. Because you are a fractal of consciousness within an oversoul, this means that your oversoul is a fractal of a group consciousness that resides within a planetary conscious level, and the planets of Earth, as well as the others from your solar system, are also fractals of a larger consciousness, which makes up your solar collective incarnative cycle. So as you came to this specific incarnation, you began as a broken fractal off of the solar incarnation. Your entire solar system is a collective that traveled together. So what this means is, before your star was born in a physical sense, this means you are a portion of another collective consciousness. Now let us look into what collective consciousness you were in at one period before this Earth incarnation. One moment and I will connect to this energy.
Okay, thank you.
Yes! Let us say that in your existence, there once was a star that is exploded in your own perception, or supernova perhaps, as your scientists would call this. And in this specific star system, there are many of those consciousnesses that are left within that area. These are the entities that make up the first density, creative level of consciousness. Those entities are always ones that stay behind within a group consciousness, and this specific star is one that was a very large blue star that inhabited 23 planets within its solar system, and within those 23 planets at various times, there are 6 of those planets that inhabited first through 4th density life, and 2 that inhabited up to 6th density incarnations. And in those cycles, you belong to a race of entities that were humanish in nature, very humanoid of energy. We are not sure of the name of this entity, as it no longer has a place within the collective galactic consciousness, but these entities were once having a blue-green skin, but looking very much as humans do, in a way, perhaps only differentiated by skin color as well as the eye size. The eyes were very much larger in this, and this specific race was the master of this solar system consciousness. They were the ones that would connect to other third density entities within the galactic, or within that solar system consciousness, if you will, connecting to several fractals, trying to help achieve what our own race is at this time, connecting outward to other entities, sharing our love and information if we desire to. And in this way, you are very much a type 1 entity that resided within the 6th density. Of course, as you know, your own fractalized consciousness is one part of your collective, but when you break down specific fractals, the energetic signature that remains in each fractalized consciousness, there is an entity that would appear to be masculine in its own energy, but also having great feminine attributes. And this entity specifically was connected to an existence in which it's a life. It was able to connect outward in a telepathic nature. It was able to connect to the various entities within the solar system. But what was special of this entity specifically is that its enjoyment of collecting knowledge in a very interesting and intricate crystalline consciousness, recorded way, This was a very interesting concept to begin with. This was one of the very first galactic consciousnesses, or entity within the galactic consciousness, that began integrating not only sound but electromagnetism within the crystalline consciousness, or the entity that you would see as a first density crystal, to store information. There are still remnants of this information that remain within other races that they connect to, but they are not accessible by the same means in which they were, because over the hundreds of millions of years that have taken place between then, or let us say 100s of billions of years, if you will, that it has taken place from that consciousness to this. There are also many incarnation cycles that are in between, as well as the degradation of the first density entities that make this crystalline substance. So the essence of the crystalline matrices, if you will, the archived information that once, as a fractal, you collected, is still there, and although small physical parts are there, energetically it is not readable in the same fashion that it once was.
That's a lot, a lot of information. I'll have to
Yes,
listen back and pick my way through that piece by piece.
yes. Let us express to you that in your scientific perception, your earth scientists perceive this galaxy to be a specific age. They perceive your entire universe to be at 14 to 16.3 billion years. But let us express that the consciousness of this universe is much older than this. The expansion of one's consciousness in a collective way, in a universal consciousness, an 11th density entity, is much closer to the concept of multi-hundred trillions of years. And this is very dependent from one universal entity to the next, but this is something that is worth speaking of.
Okay. I have some questions, more questions relating to my current incarnations. Are you able, Treb, to looking at where I am now, to identify where I am developmentally in terms of my own dimensional progression?
In what way do you mean in your own dimensional progression? Are you speaking of the overall vibration level in which you have been able to achieve throughout your evolution? Or are you specifically speaking more so to the concept of growth within your own self, comparing it to the average of what you once were?
A comment on either would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes! In the idea of your overall vibration, this is what an area of consciousness that often myself and the host refer to as looking into the color spectrum to see what the overall vibration of an entity is. Within your own existence, you are in between the yellow and green chakra area, which is a very great point of the evolution to be at, knowing that no point of evolution is negative or positive. If we are
Yes.
comparing this to the average human collective consciousness, you are approximately 1 1/4 chakra in a higher vibration than the average human being at this time. And when you look at the in-between yellow to green, if you are to place 4 specific marks going upwards from yellow and in 4 increments that separate yellow from green, you would be in a 3/4 green from yellow to green. So you're approximately 1/4 of the way between yellow and green, away from being completely into your heart chakra.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yes! Thank you as well.
Um, how far away would you say my next incarnation on the Earth plane is in terms of, in linear terms, in terms of years? I'm looking at, behind that question is another question. What period of rest am I likely to have before I need to return?
In this time, if you are looking at the overall probabilities, there will be a very little time of settlement into your afterlife existence. You will
Bugger.
choose to go into an incarnation very quickly, but let us express that this is in the energy as we perceive it now, in any choice that you are able to make or willing to make or do make in between those times can very greatly affect the outcome of this.
Absolutely. Are you able to speak to the idea of other lives that I've had and periods of in between lifetime, perhaps going back a couple of incarnations? What sort of time frames are we looking at? Have I been coming and going quite regularly, or have there been longer periods where I've been not here and reflecting or learning or whatever it is that I'm doing?
Yes! If you look at time in a linear fashion, if you look at your own fractalized consciousness, your previous incarnation before this life, there was only approximately 36 perhaps, or 37 years between. But before this life, there was over 172 years, and before that existence, you are looking at approximately 111 years. Now, when you look at these time differences, this is very common amount of time between incarnations. The one that comes linearly before the 111 years was approximately 372 years. Now, this is more of an above average span of existence, but in this specific life it was very detrimental to your consciousness. In your own perception, as we understand, there is no detriment to the soul, there is only growth and expansion. But in your
Yes.
fractalized consciousness, the way that you perceived your existence at that period was that of a negative consequence because of the pain and suffering that you experienced. You ended taking your own life, and suicide perhaps is the idea of the word, where you are
Yes.
ending your own physical incarnation. And in this
Yes.
suicide, it brought more pain and more suffering, more of the turmoil that lasts within you, and that is the reason that it expanded into this time period. But when you see each incarnation, it is a slight variation dependent on what you have to take in to yourself after your existence, depending on what your vibrational level is, and depending on what your beliefs are at time of death. And with this existence, you are aware enough about what will be after your existence so that you may make very quick decisions.
Thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome.
Okay, Treb, my greatest excitement is represented at the moment by the idea as I said earlier, of developing a purposeful relationship with higher dimensional type 1 entities that are willing to work with me, be it from my own soul family or others who would match. Um, could you, looking through my energetics, my chakras, etc., could you comment on the probability of me being able to achieve that in the next 12 months or so? I'm just looking for some sort of confirmation that I'm actually moving in the right direction, or whether I should lay that down and do something else. I've had a lot of experiences through life where I've tried certain things and the energetics didn't allow me to progress in the way that I'd imagined or hoped to. So I just want to know where to put my energy at the moment.
Yes! Let us express first off that in your excitement you will always find great growth, and if you look into your excitement of what specifically it is that you wish to do by connecting to these entities, if you follow your excitement in this, there will never be any disappointments. As long as you are not willing, or as long as you are not placing specific expectations in the way of progression, many humans say, I wish to be able to channel so that I may learn, so that I may have the unlimited availability to information and knowledge. But in this way, this often does not seem to be the greatest motivator of humanity for succession rate in connecting to entities. What the greatest
Yes.
succession rate between entities are is looking into oneself more greatly. This is what most commonly shows success between entities and their entities that they are connected to. The host himself, in his own expansion, was able to connect to me, but if this entity would have become aware of channeling, it was almost certain that he would have tried to place an excitement in channeling so that he may gain access to higher knowledge. And looking into another entity, and in this way you are bypassing your own strength and your own capability to connect to the knowledge. So let us express this before we continue with our own concept. Now, when we look at the idea of your own self and the progression, there is the concept that in the next 12 months, if you're allowing your expectations to be placed to the side, if you are allowing your own excitement about the concept of channeling come into your heart, if you go through the correct channels, incorrect, what I mean is the most resonant and high vibrational channels, to connect to your own heart and perhaps seek guidance from other entities as a part of your excitement and co-creation, there is a probability that is 57% that you will be able to manifest this. Now, in the idea 57%, this does not sound as if it is very high, but let us assure you within the infinite amounts of possibilities and probabilities, 57% in the energy that you are within now is a very high one. Let us express that if it is within your greatest excitement to learn this channeling process, to place your excitement in it until it no longer is exciting. And even if you are or are not able to channel, this will greatly depend on your own perceptions, your own concepts of how and why, and expecting specific areas. If you place all of these things, regardless of if you are or if you are not, you will always find a greater excitement on the other side of this.
Thank you.
Yes, you are very welcome.
My my motivation, I think, for looking at channeling or mediumship is the idea of helping others to be better connected to them higher to their higher selves. That would be the motivation, and what I would be, if you use the word expectation, that was what I would like to see manifest out of the idea. I'm not interested in it so much for as a means of gathering a lot of information about myself. I mean, I have this avenue right now with you, Treb, so there are other ways to connect on occasion and have questions answered. It was more to do with it.
Yes. And this is very exciting for us. When you look at the idea of allowing yourself to be part of one, to see your oneness in other entities that you are experiencing around you, this also gives you a higher percentage of probability. And this is why we believe that the excitement and the knowledge that you are a part of one and your willingness to share this with all that is the highest percentage. It is why your what averagely most humans will experience of 13 to 27% has become 57%.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you as well.
Treb, I can move on now to the lucid dream questions if you're ready for that, if you want that.
Yes, whatever is most exciting to you.
Okay. Well, I wanted to read out to you a story. It's not long, but it does cover a fair bit of ground. But I thought it may raise a whole range of questions, and it creates a context for the questions that I have afterwards. Um, is it okay if I start reading?
Yes, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Okay. In a recent lucid dream, I found myself visiting friends who were living in a parallel version of the city of Sydney here in Australia, where I live. They were living in a house located on a major arterial road that leads to the city centre. The immediate environment was essentially a replica of the inner city as it now exists in my waking reality. However, some features were notably different. Particularly, there was a large park directly across the road from their house that doesn't exist in the 3D version. In this lucid dream, I found myself standing in my friend's backyard. I was demonstrating to them that on that plane of reality, I had the ability to gently lift off the ground and that I was able to fly about. Whilst this was happening, I noticed that a bank of dense clouds across the road overhanging the park began to pulsate with waves of energy, light, and colour. It was as if they were being backlit by some incredible technologically advanced intelligent energy source. I perceived that those responsible for the light show were making their arrival and presence known to the people of the city. The clouds then started to become organised and began to form into interlocking geometric or symbolic formations that appeared to be some kind of informational download. The symbols and geometric shapes morphed and changed in unison, and as they did, the sense of intelligent energy and information that they emitted also shifted. I stood in awe watching, but whilst I could feel the energy pulsing through me, I was unable to understand the meaning of what was being communicated. Then from behind the clouds, I saw what I would describe as a series of light tubes emerge and begin to reach out like the tentacles of an octopus across the city, gently locating and, so to speak, vacuuming up specific individuals. I desperately wanted the experience of being involved in whatever was happening, so I began to fly backwards and forwards up and down the road in an effort to catch their attention, the people who were doing this gathering. Eventually, I heard a voice say benevolently, and with a little humour to me, "Well, I guess we'd better take you too." And then I was also taken up. I next found myself in an open grass area, not unlike the manicured grounds of a university campus here on Earth. There was a kind of open air amphitheatre that appeared to be where those present gathered to hear speakers address them. There were small groups of individuals slowly walking or standing around talking in groups. I was escorted by a small number of these beings on what seems to have been a short tour of the grounds, and I found them to be incredibly respectful and attentive to me, but unfortunately I'm unable to recall much of what was discussed. They radiated with a gentle, loving kindness that put me completely at ease. They were initially human in appearance, but were generally taller than most of us, maybe around the 6.5 to 7 foot range. After a while, I came to notice. Sorry, lost my spot there. After a while, I came to notice that the human appearance that they were projecting was actually a kind of energetic cloaking. Every now and then, the energy that maintained their external human image would flicker slightly, and I could see that they were actually a reptilian race. I was initially alarmed by this, mainly as I didn't consciously know anything about reptilian races, except I'd heard the idea that they were dangerous and not to be connected to. Nonetheless, I found that I was quickly put at ease, mainly due to the loving, accepting, non-threatening energy that these beings emitted. In thinking back over the experience, I now suspect the flickering of their human-like projection was most probably intended to desensitize me by allowing me to see brief glimpses of them as they truly are. I remember that I somewhat cheekily asked if I could speak to the person in command or in charge. To my surprise, the person in charge was willing to see me, and we met in the park with one or two others for a brief chat. Sadly, again, I remember little of what was discussed, except that I may have been talking about my 3D experience as it plays out on the Earth. After the discussion, I remember walking back to the departure area accompanied by a small group of these beings. I remember feeling so comfortable, relaxed, and grateful that I unexpectedly reached up and kissed one who presented as female on the cheek as we walked along. She was a little taken aback by my earthly expression of gratitude, but she graciously responded with a simple, warm-hearted smile. Next, I was transported to a type of departure lounge along with some others who were in the process of being returned. I soon found myself back in that same astral version of the Earth city of Sydney. I was sitting in a bus shuttle with a spirit guide beside me, and we had what appeared to be a shawl draped around both of our shoulders, and we were having a time of debriefing before I returned back to Earth, where my body lay sleeping. Um, Treb, I've got the questions now. What are you aware of? Are you able to pick up through my energy who it was that I connected with there, and what density or dimension these beings are from?
Yes! These entities that are connected to you are ones that are perceived as Type 2 entities, but ones that are perceived as benevolent Type 2 entities. These entities are ones that you would say are on the cusp of Type 2 and Type 1, ones who love humanity, ones who are very greatly sensitive to your needs and desires, but also ones who are willing to, let us say, abduct entities without a aware, conscious agreement of this, and also to
Aha.
connect into specific hybrid programs that are not connected to their own lineage, but connected to other reptilian entities that cannot procreate anymore. These entities are most common third density entities in which they facilitate the hybrid program for, so that their race may live on as they are trying to help these entities. This
I
race
see.
specifically or galactically known are known as the Ner Gos, which are very similar and often misinterpreted as the Nagas. And the Naga entity are ones that are perceived as the Earth reptilians, but this is also a misconception. The Naga entities are ones that are half between the genealogy of the ancient reptilians and the Earth reptilians. These Narada entities that you are connected to, these entities are connecting to you very frequently. What else is it that you wish to know of these entities?
In my connecting to them, am I contributing positively?
Yes, very much so. Their Earth interest is often occurring by the growth of humanity within their own purpose, within entities who are, by their own perception of the higher vibrational status, they are going to connect to these entities because of the DNA that they have activated through their evolutionary growth. Is the same DNA that they wish to impart upon this entities that are of a third density reptilian nature. Reptilian energy is very different from energies of the insectoids. It is very different from energies of the humanoids, and very different from the ones that you would perceive as avian or feline by nature. And within the reptilian energy, there is a perceptual disposal, if you will, to being able to connect to negative energy more easily than that you would perceive to be positive. So what they are doing through their connection to humanity is taking the entities who have activated portions of their DNA that are more simply, easily more able to connect to the source energy type of energy. And when they connect to your own self, this is of a great benefit to them as well. You have now begun to integrate your heart chakra area, which again is expressed as a higher vibration than the average human that you are experiencing. And the heart chakra area is higher vibrationally than that of a third density experience. So what they are doing is connecting to humanity using the greatest attributes and handing this to a third density race who is in very great need of love and connection. And you are helping facilitate this in a great way.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes,
It's
it is
really
very beautiful as well.
fantastic. Could you comment on the technology that they were using, particularly the interlocking cloud symbols that were just morphing and changing? Enormous amounts of information and energy were coming through there. Consciously, I couldn't interpret that, but I could feel it, but I couldn't interpret it.
Yes, and this is the way that geometry and sacred geometry work upon humans. Although there are races that are able to interpret this very easily, some intuitively, the Earth human consciousness has been attentionalized or focused attention to be able to not reflect consciously on their sacred geometry. And when these entities are using the geometric patterns and sequence and colors and variations, they are using this to help unlock those who are on the cusp of growing or who are on the cusp of activating the specific portions of DNA that allow this light, that allow the love, and allow information inward. And in this area, while they are using these symbolisms, it is helping activate those who are on the cusp so that more may co-create in their experience of handing this down to the reptilian entities. These reptilian entities that are of a type 2 but on the cusp of type 1 are very interested in helping other races of reptilians who wish to come into the more so type 1 energy on the cusp of type 2 and 1 because of the nature of the reptilian collective consciousness, the perception of the reptilian collective consciousness. And when you look at the activation proportion of these energetic symbols, the flashing and the way that they are coming, the technology that they are using is very simple technology. It is only a projection technology, but what is in this specific technology that you are seeing that is so great is not the technology that they are projecting from, which adds no specific energy to your own DNA or to your own perception, but the symbols within the projection is what is truly connecting to you. And these do not need any specific technology. It is what you are able to do as a human. If there is a human entity who is able to channel a specific geometric pattern, the specific morphing into different geometric patterns, they will be able to place a puzzle that is able to unlock these activated DNAs so that you may experience this.
Thank you.
Yes, you are very welcome.
Treb, just a quick question on guides. I have guides who visit me in the dream state. Their function seems to be to provide emotional support and counselling, and a lot of the times they do energetic light downloads as well, which I perceive in the area of the head. So far, they presented to me as female. They display themselves as that they appear as translucent and loosely human in image. But when I look upon their faces, they constantly the image of the face constantly changes, and I'm not able to ever identify it as anyone familiar. The structure of the faces is not completely human, I feel. I've seen some images. I wasn't aware of them until quite recently, that were drawn by a person called Awaken Within, of entities Shayla and Isolde.
Yes.
And I sort of it prompted the idea in me that these guides may actually be from a similar background as these entities Shayla and Isolde. I'm just wondering if you comment on that.
Yes, I am connected to both of these entities very intimately and very
Yes.
deeply, and within these entities, the races that they are residing from are not within the same energetic spectrum as far as the genealogy of these entities go. But if you
Right.
look at energetically the patterns that create them, that create their experience and personality, there is one guide specifically that is connected to this. It is not the entities that you would, the Isolde, if you will. This
Yes.
entity is one who is a shape changer, who is a very high powered entity that is able to shapeshift very quickly and very easily. The
Right.
energy of this entity that is your guide is very similar to this. They are in the state of being able to change their physical identity so that they may experience separate experiences. This is why you are not able to lock upon the face structure of these entities. They are
Right.
playing with the physical, or in your perception, semi-physical self, to be able to assist you in the astral state, to be able not to worry of who this entity is, to not gain a perception of any one entity, and allow
Right.
yourself the freedom to co-create with him without the expectation of creating with one specific entity. They are doing this so that your preconception of any one entity may be thrown away and your experience may be open and multifaceted connection.
Thank you. I can
Yes.
give I can give you some more information too. That's interesting. On one occasion, one of these beings, again presenting at the time as a female energy, came moving to me quite quickly through the crowds on what I'd call the lower astral area, the grey area, that we seem to move to and from as we go to sleep and come back. And this being came through the crowd and merged intimately with me and produced an amazing flash of light that effectively replicated a human sexual encounter. She was quite bold about it, as if we were already very well acquainted. Um, I've written here, she did it without even buying me dinner first. Are you able to comment on that? It was definitely a merging that was, an astral version of sexuality. And do we have some sort of a relationship on different levels, an ongoing relationship that would validate that, or was that just what was the nature of that behavior, and where does it fit into the spectrum of types, type 1, type 2, etc.?
Yes! This entity specifically is one that is connected with you through the Oversoul. It is what you would perceive again as a Type 2 entity, but one on the benevolent portion of Type 2s. And in your interaction with this entity, the reason why it takes such a fierce and a very prominent sexuality with you is because within your experience and connection to this entity, it is that of the hybrid children nature. This entity is connecting to your astral body, as your astral body is the same as the physical body in its way and ability to reproduce, but on a higher vibrational level. Some entities
Ah,
will come to your physical body, remove your sperm or eggs, and then change the vibration of the eggs and sperm to bring it into a higher vibrational level so that it may impregnate an entity who is of a higher density than you. But this
right.
entity specifically bypasses this way by coming to you in your between fourth and fifth density self, which is known as the astral state, and connecting with you in a sexual manner so that you may reproduce with her on a vibrational level that is more fitting to her. The aggressive nature of this, the familiarity that she has with your own sexuality and your own self, is not one that is a lack of respect. In fact, this is quite opposite. This entity is being able to sexualize with you so quickly in such a prominent manner because this entity is very familiar with you. Although your conscious mind did not recall in that specific moment, this entity has been experiencing that of the hybrid children nature with you for over 1 decade.
Is that right? Well,
Yes!
I prefer the approach she's taking to the more intrusive one of harvesting from my physical body. So thank you.
Yes, you are very welcome.
Okay. Um, I've got a quick question on how much time is there left, Treb? Have we got time to connect through to others?
Um, I am not sure of the time that is left within the interaction.
Oh,
We have approximately 10 to 15 minutes that is left. If you wish to connect to another entity, this is very acceptable.
ah, I'm just sorry. I'm just quickly skimming through my notes.
Yes,
Uh,
this is very acceptable.
thank you. This question, I think, Treb, would be one I'd like to hear from you on. All through my life, I've experienced a very narrow range of capacity energetically. It's like I'm actually channeled in a quite a narrow range. If I've tried to do things that even things that were of high excitement to me to the left or the right, musical endeavors or other things, sporting endeavors, things like that, I always found that the energetics were never there to support that. It was like I come here with a very specific purpose for this incarnation. It's been, to be honest, quite disheartening, and it may actually connect back to that other life that you talked about that was not very pleasant. But um, the way that I interpret, the way I'm looking at it, is that the narrowness of it and the lack of opportunities to explore in other areas that I might have found attractive was to keep me on a pathway towards some end game, some opportunity that coming in around this time of my life that I could do something that I'd pre-agreed to do. Are you able to absorb all of that and just feed back to me what you believe is happening? Am I understandings in the right area, or is it something else?
Yes! The entity that you perceived as having a very difficult existence, one who is suiciding himself, in this incarnation, this is linked to this incarnation, but it is not
Mm,
linked in the way or perception that perhaps you would see this. It is only connecting to you because of in these moments of not putting the energy as you would see this into those things that you wish to experience. You see them in some aspects as specific failures or disappointments, and this is what links this incarnation. Many
right.
entities have a misconception of how previous incarnations link to this, but let us express that it is your energy in the now moment that connects you to the separate fractals of the Oversoul. One life will not be your past today that was yesterday, if your incarn or if your vibrational level yesterday linked you to a separate incarnation. So what is expressed as if yesterday you were very mad and angry, it will link you more so to incarnations that were mad and angry. And when you are
Uh,
happy in this day, it will link you to more incarnations that are happy. And both of these days does not necessarily mean that the day that you are happy, you did not connect to the incarnation whatsoever. It was not considered your past life when you were angry, and vice versa. Now, when you look at this in your expressive way that you are connected to, when you look at your past endeavors, your connections to them and why they did not come to fruition, there are many levels to do this. One of them was your expectations in those moments of how you wished them to come to be, and as you began to be older and gain more insight, your expectations became less in specific areas, but also your anxiety of not being able to manifest it also became higher. And when you see this is one of the energies that did not balance. But when you look in the overall concept of what it is to do with your expression and your life and your incarnation, in this existence there is no set plan. The higher self will often give you the opportunity to do what is in the greatest benefit to your oversoul, but knowing that you have free will and knowing that you do not have to follow any given path, your availability to do whatever it takes is one that you can experience in any terms that you agree to. But what I am expressing is when you follow your excitements, what you are doing is allowing the Oversoul to show you the pathway or the reason that before you once wished to incarnate. And many entities become frustrated with this, saying, I will not follow a path that is determined for me, I will make my own. And this is very acceptable, but what we express is if you want to understand what your purpose was, or at least your fractal's intention before you started your incarnation, following your excitements is the true pathway without expectations, without anxiety. When you look at your own existence, let us see if you are willing for us to ask you one question.
Yes.
What is it in your own incarnation that has always excited you the most?
Serving others.
Yes! And in what way is the greatest way to serve many?
For me, it's the work that I've done. I worked for many years in disabilities, working with people with disabilities, doing training teams, and I always did it from an attitude of following the heart and wanting to create freedom for other people to not follow standard formats, but to follow their own progression. So it's very much about freedom and not controlling. So providing a conduit for information. I've done a lot of that. A lot of the information that I've actually passed on to others has been sort of downloaded in the moment because of that framework that I've just described allowed that to happen. That's always been my greatest excitement. The actual the environment where it's done. It was done in a disability employment service setting for many years. It's been done in church settings, home group settings, but at the moment I don't have an outlet for it, a venue for that to occur, and that's why I'm looking into these areas, because I'm not wanting to pass on what I think about things. I'm wanting to pass on what comes to me from the higher aspect of myself or others, to allow that to go to the person. So it's creating an avenue for that to occur is probably the thing that I'm most passionate about.
Yes! And let us express that in your excitements, in your wish and desire to connect to others and to serve and to help, this has brought you a great amount of excitement. But what we perceive, what we are giving, what we are getting, both from the Oversoul, is that when you are living in your excitements in any fashion, this is the greatest opportunity to help others in their excitements. Setting examples energetically, being willing and open enough to do what excites you in the moment. This is all a very key to doing this and helping others so that they may experience you in this way. So what we suggest is in your excitements of helping others in this specific area that you help, what we suggest is that looking into many various ways to do this, and when you find one that sticks out most greatly, in excitement, not in your mind, not in your stomach, but in your heart, whichever one is most exciting is being led there for a reason. It is your higher self showing you this is the pathway that you intended before incarnation, and now you are having a new network or a new arena to be able to live in this excitement. And this is why we always express by following your excitement, you will find the greatest tools to be able to live through your excitement.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
you are very welcome. We have time for one last question. And this would be the last question that we are able to connect to this evening.
Okay. Is it possible? Is it possible at this stage to connect very briefly to someone, an entity higher up, as I originally asked, just to say hello? I know we haven't got time. I won't be asking
Yes,
questions.
it
Just
is
to have
very
the
possible.
experience. Thank you.
One moment, please.
Thank you.
Greetings.
Hello. Hi. It's Marq.
You may call me Sinead.
Sinead. How are you?
I'm very excited to speak to you this evening.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I left it so late. We might have to arrange another session for this, but I just wanted to touch in with you. Have you been able to hear everything that has been said?
We have been listening very frequently, not just to this conversation, but many more. We are very
Oh,
excited to connect to you. When you are in a dream state, there has been a great excitement. There has been a great overwhelming feeling that although you cannot recall, you are connecting. And this is who you are connecting to.
oh, beautiful. Thank you.
We are
I get.
residing in the fifth density. We are a race that is human, just as yours. We are a
Oh, okay.
race that is approximately 200 light years from you. We are in an area that is close to the star that you call Polaris. We are in
Polaris.
the Ursa Majora constellation, I believe is the name that you call this. We are very excited to connect to humanity in this time as we see the progression of your races beginning to join an alliance of galactic councils, of galactic federations, of galactic connections. Once your race is able to achieve this, many humans will be set free from the once perceived imprisonment of their own minds and hearts that they were once placed in. We know that soon is a very personal opinion of ours that this is very different from one entity and how they perceive soon. But we see within the next 30 years of your race, you will be able to make this connection to an outward extension. We are happy to be a part of this connection. We are happy to witness this connection. We are happy to see that these things will once come to fruition if your planet and people allow it.
Beautiful. For my own part, I'm very willing to play whatever role I can in facilitating that. I'm assuming that it's the work of many individuals that collectively band together that brings these things to pass, and that each person can have a role to play if they so choose. So that's very much what I would like to be involved in.
I would very much be excited to be a part of this also. The greatest thing that you can ever do to help facilitate our connection with you is to be within your heart open to the opportunity to connect to us in many ways. We have already tried to place a connection with you, and we have seen
Right.
energetically it was not the correct time. Once you
Oh,
feel open enough to connect in a more conscious way, we will be able to connect.
thank you. Would you suggest, is there a symbol or a point of reference, something that I can use as a permission slip, so to speak, something to give me a focal point in connecting to you? I've got your name now.
For these parts, these permission slips, you may choose anyone. Anything that makes you feel close to my energy is able to be. But the greatest symbol, the greatest pathway to connecting with us is through your heart center. Knowing your
Mm,
heart in the same energy that you feel now. It is excitement, it is love, it is wondering what is next, anticipation, but not in a frantic way. These are all energies that
Yes.
are the pathway of openness of the heart and willingness to connect without expectation. This is one of the greatest tools that you have. Be open in your heart, be open in your mind, be excited to connect to us, and we will find a pathway that is closer to you without the restrictions of going through many channels to get there.
Beautiful. And your name is Sinead? Sinead? Is that correct?
Yes, this is very, very correct.
And the people are called, could you remind me what you said about what your people are called?
They are not called any one thing, many names that we have.
Okay. Okay. I have in my meditative place, I've created an area for connection, and I go there regularly and awake connection. Would you be able, there's an image that I use, a visualization, if you like. Are you able to connect into that? Could that be a place that we could meet?
Wherever your physical body is, we are able to connect if you are open to connecting. What symbolism is the first that comes into your mind when you feel my energy?
I feel it's like a gentleness, a gentle breeze.
Picture the breeze upon a tree, seeing a tree with a breeze in the leaves. Whichever your favorite tree is, this will be the energetic permission that you were speaking about. Well, if you are able to visualize this will call my own energy to you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sinead.
Thank you. We appreciate your time and efforts of wanting to connect to more of yourself. We will disconnect and give you back to the entity that connected us.
Thank you. Bye.
We love you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Treb.
Yes. In this entity, a connection that has been made to you through your oversoul is one that will help achieve many grateful interactions or many great interactions. And in your own energy, if your excitedness is what is able to help you continue to connect to this idea, placing the idea of what this entity is expressed, of your own heartfulness, of your own heart-centeredness, this can be a very great tool to not only connect to this entity, but also many entities in your oversoul. We are very excited that you are able to connect to this entity, and we now have no time that is left in this connection.
Yes.
So we wish to
Yes.
express to you a great love and gratitude for your connection, and also for your excitement that has led you to us.
Thank you so much, Treb. Thank you for your love, and thank you for the respect that you show all of us. We seem to be flying partially in the dark, and gradually emerging from that position. So it does feel vulnerable at times for us, but I just love the way that you put people at ease, and the beautiful, generous energy that you are. Thank you.
Yes, and I am very excited to connect you with your energy as well. Each one of you, as a separate entity, as well as a collective consciousness, has always been able to add to my own energy in a positive nature. And I am very excited to co-create with all of you and express my own great love and gratitude to you for connecting to me as well. With these ideas being expressed, I will leave you this morning in love and in light, and we will connect again very soon.
Thank you, Treb.
Yes, you are very welcome. Good night.
Good night.